This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Okay, let's talk Monday Night Raw that took place last night in Baltimore, Maryland. Really big night for Raw. Once again, well received. Following hot on the heels of the SummerSlam event that was also critically acclaimed, this show was no different. Very eventful. The Bash at Berlin event is also starting to take shape, believe it or not, already. But that event is also only a few weeks away, just as every PLE seems to be at this point. And I want to just say thank you to everybody who listened throughout SummerSlam, the listeners we picked up through SummerSlam, and welcome to new patrons. The Judgment Day is actually one of the new patrons. I don't think that's actually the Judgment Day, but you never know. And also Joel G, thank you for your patronage. Carry On M, and I don't know if I said Derek S. and Megan F. Thank you to all of you who have joined us over at Patreon, as well as, let's see here, Matthew T. Thank you to all the new patrons. You guys can join Patreon and get yourself ad-free right now for 1 week. You can do that for free over at patreon.com/WWE podcast, and over at Apple Podcasts, you can go ad-free there for a week if you want to try it before you buy it, as they say. So, okay, well, Monday Night Raw, as I said, really big event. Really big Monday Night Raw that took place, and we really have a number of places that we could start. But let's start with the Gunther Open, as we saw the SummerSlam event that was recapped, and we saw many kind of rewinds and recaps of SummerSlam that you'll continue to also see on SmackDown. And we had Gunther introduced by Ludwig Kaiser, which has been something I've missed. I know Gunther's kind of gone on his own. Giovanni Vinci has been ousted from the group, and that happened a couple of months ago, and Ludwig kind of has been on the outside of things. And it's nice to see him back, reintroducing the ring general. And it's just a nice touch to his character that I think is something that I like. I think it's personally a nice polish on his character. But he introduced him, and Gunther came out and said a new legacy begins, and that the title and the company deserved so much more for a long time. And he said, if you thought his Intercontinental title reign was historic, wait till you see what he does as world champion. And he talked about how he's better than a lot of other wrestlers, and nothing can catch him off guard, since he said he is greatness personified. That's when Randy Orton's music hit. Cole said, "No way," as Randy Orton walked out, and Gunther conceded that Orton showing up did surprise him, and said he's the only reason that Gunther is holding the championship. Orton said that Gunther got his title shot because he beat him at King of the Ring, then questioned whether Gunther actually beat him. If you remember, Orton's shoulders were not actually down during the finals of King of the Ring, when Orton and Gunther had their finals matchup. And from there, we had Orton say even Triple H knows that his shoulders were not on the mat when he was pinned. Orton said, and I don't know why he brought up Triple H. Not sure. I don't know why Orton brought him up. We all know Triple H is the one that who finalizes the story, writes the stories essentially. It's kind of weird that he bring him up by name, but and for good measure, Triple H showing up at nearly every PLE, especially big ones, and reintroducing himself. Is there a reason why Triple H has done that? Does he need to ask if we're ready? It's kind of like, what he's really saying is, are you guys ready to see what stories I've come up for you? Like, the stories that I have written for you. Are you ready to see what I have in store for you? That's essentially what he's saying. I don't like it. I love Triple H. Paul Levesque seems like actually a decent guy as a human being. But now when I see him, especially when he's coming out at the beginning of events, which is kind of his signature now, and he always asks if we're ready and talks about how either the number of people that are there, which the host of SummerSlam did this time, but it's weird because it's very transparent that he's the one that signs off. We all know he's the one that signs off as head of creative. So what he's really asking is, hey, you guys ready to see the stories that I have for you? And, I know that it's coming off like I'm complaining. I don't know why he does this a lot. I don't know what Triple H's motivations are for it. I don't know if it's a complaint or not, just more of a kind of an annoyance of an observation that I have. Again, when Triple H is involved in anything on camera, it's always a little weird. And when Triple H, hugged Cody at the end of WrestleMania, it's like, haha, how'd you like that story I wrote for you? It's just weird. It's breaking the fourth wall, if it even exists anymore. But Orton here comes out and said that he said that even Triple H knows that there would be a rematch, and Orton said he was calling in that rematch. And Orton said he's the only man who can catch Gunther inside the ring as a technician who can match Gunther. And said the fans deserve a modern-day Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. And Orton said he knows he can fill one of those roles and questioned whether Gunther could. All right, well, those are some pretty damn big shoes to fill. Pretty ballsy. With those two being used as a comparison to Gunther and Orton, is it a fair comparison? I'll let you guys decide. I will say a lot of the fans today don't even know about that storyline, don't even know about that matchup. He has to remember that it's not 20 years ago anymore. While I'd say most fans probably know what that is, I'd say there's a significant portion of the viewing audience that has no idea about the storyline or match quality of Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. So kind of an interesting comparison that he's using a matchup from like 40 years ago that was obviously a legendary matchup. Moving on. So Orton said Gunther considered himself a living legend and said, my brother, I made a career out of killing legends. And he boasted how he would do the same at Bash in Berlin and walk out as the new world heavyweight champion. And Gunther said everything Orton said is true. And he said not beating Orton left a stain on his record at King of the Ring, and said that the voices in his head were telling Orton he could win, that the voices are wrong. He accepted the challenge. They had a handshake. Orton accepted, and Gunther pulled him in close. And the mic picked up Gunther saying nothing catches him out of nowhere. And Orton said that's good to know, and he wants Gunther to see it coming. And he left the ring. And we talked about Orton becoming a possible 15-time champion. Okay. Mixed feelings on this. You guys know what I'm going to say already. If you've listened to this show before, you already know what I'm going to say here. And it's both good and bad. The good part of this, all right, let's just call it what it is. The match quality for this pairing is A+. It's going to be fun. It's going to be A+ matchup quality. Their promos, as we get closer, are going to be a lot of fun. The story is going to be, I guess the narrative that they said is Orton, can he surprise Gunther? Can he catch Gunther out of nowhere? And can Orton become a 15-time champion? Can he get closer to history of becoming maybe a 16-time champion? I mean, I don't think Orton will ever get there. I think Orton might freeze at 14. I think there might be one more world title run in his career, but getting Orton to the level of John Cena is probably not what ultimately, when we look back at Orton's career, what we will look back on and say is, oh, wow, he became a 16-time champion to match Ric Flair. I doubt it, but anyway, back to the near future. We know this is going to be a great matchup. Do we know that Orton's going to lose? Yes. There's almost no chance that Gunther wins or loses here at Bash at Berlin. There's almost no chance. But that's not what really is at stake. It's what they'll have to try to do over the next several weeks, and hopefully they can, is make a case why Orton has an actual chance. Because look, Gunther just won. Triple H has shown throughout his tenure thus far that he believes in long title reigns for the most part. It's not a 100% hard and fast rule, but he generally believes in long-term storytelling, which I really love and appreciate. And he believes in title changes having meaning, not just doing it for shock value. And especially with a guy like Gunther, you're not going to give him a 1 month or 3.5 week title reign. Somebody that is viewed as a potential Hall of Famer, and really one that you could argue already is on his way. You're not going to have him lose his first title reign in 3.5 weeks or 3.5 4 weeks. It's not going to happen. So the case is, can they make a good case? Can they get us to that point where we believe that Randy Orton could win? That'll be fun. The answer is hopefully yes. I think they will. And Orton is so talented and Gunther is so talented, I think they can. And they can make this a fun program. And I think we'll have, over the next several weeks, you'll see Ludwig Kaiser take an RKO or two, ultimately not being able to hit one on Gunther. Maybe, let me take that back. I think he'll be able to hit one on Gunther prior to the event at Bash at Berlin. I don't think it'll be a regular occurrence. I'd be surprised if it was. I don't expect these two to have a ton of physicality before the event. It'll be a lot of promos, kind of more of a seemingly a sportsman-like competition, and that's fine with me. I think that's a nice change of pace. But again, we'll see. They still got 3 weeks to build this thing. So that's the good. I don't know if it's the bad or rather my own issues with this. Number one, I don't think this isn't an issue. This is a fact. We had Orton talk about Bash at Berlin being in Gunther's home country of Germany. Orton said that verbatim. Well, I think Orton may want to freshen up his geography skills, because Germany is not the same as Austria. Gunther is from Austria. He was born in Austria, not Australia, Austria, which is nearby Germany, but not in Germany. So I know that I guess the selling point was this will be in Gunther's home country. It's not in his home country. All right. I know that, you may say, well, there have been times where you have stars that have nearby home country kind of vibes. And yeah, sure. I mean, I remember Clash at the Castle, not this past year in Scotland, but the previous year. It wasn't in the hometown or home country of Scotland for Drew McIntyre, but it felt like it was. You could kind of, say it without saying it, that it's kind of a hometown crowd. But in this case, you can't tell me. I mean, he's just geographically wrong. Austria is not Germany. It's not in Germany. It's not Germany. It's not a synonym for Germany. Okay? So, sorry, Orton, that's a problem. You're just wrong. So, they probably could have framed that a little bit better. I know, again, they're trying to make it like a hometown crowd that's going to be cheering on Gunther, and they still will be. I think even though Austria is not Germany, they still will be probably cheering for Gunther, and that's to be expected. That's number one. Number two, last I checked, Orton is a SmackDown star, SmackDown superstar. He was drafted to SmackDown. Why is he on Raw challenging for a Raw championship? I know we heard Pierce on the phone earlier or later in that night talking about how, oh, it's a big night. We got Orton here from SmackDown. Some kind of passing acknowledgement that Orton is here from SmackDown. But why? Why is he here? Now we know the answer. We know the real answer. The real answer is they didn't really see anybody on the Raw roster at the moment that they could utilize for a main event with Gunther. They don't have anybody right now for Gunther, which I would have said, Seth Rollins is out there. They didn't have to go to the Bronson Reed thing, but I guess they have other plans, and we can't see what they see with their long-term plans. So I'm only reporting on what I see. And I don't understand. Look, can we get an explanation? How did Orton garner this deal? How did he just walk into a brand that's not his and get an instant title shot with no pushback by any of the other stars? I mean, nobody else on the roster wants a title shot. So again, love Orton, love Gunther, no issues there, but at least this is where Vince, to me, this is one of the Vince McMahon earmarks. It's almost as if Vince was remotely running this part of the show specifically. That he said, the fans don't care. They just want the biggest matches possible. They're not ultimately going to give a damn. But you have fans like me, and again, it's a small minority. I totally recognize that. Most of you don't give an F. Most of you just want the biggest matches. Who cares? You're still getting Gunther and Orton, and that's all fine and well. Yeah, you're still getting a really fun matchup. That's a one-off, no doubt. But I care about congruity. I care about them adhering to their own rules. They're making the rules on this, not me. And when they just can't help themselves and then insult our intelligence about not even giving us an explanation as to why an opposing star who was drafted to an opposite brand is on the other brand show and then automatically getting a title shot, why and how? Just because they're a big star? I mean, no. I just give me something. Give me anything. And I just, again, Triple H may feel differently on this one, or rather, he may explain things unlike when Vince was in charge and he didn't care. But ultimately, hey, I know we're still getting Gunther and Orton, and yeah, it's going to be fun. But I wanted to bring that up because it is relevant. I'm not going to gloss over the fact that they are, again, blatantly violating their own rules of the draft that just took place a few months ago. So there, I called them out and put their feet to the fire. Or called them to the carpet. Pick your analogy. But I am. Not letting it slide. Okay. Moving on to something else that is of importance. And let's talk about, what do I want to talk about? Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser was the first matchup here. This match ended with Sheamus beating Kaiser in 11 minutes and 20 seconds. And Sheamus hit the brogue kick to get the victory. And Kaiser, again, while he lost, is on an upward trajectory. He's back in the limelight associated with now the world champion. And I think even though Kaiser's there to take the lumps and bumps for Gunther, he's still going to be elevated in the process. He'll take some more than one RKO, I'm sure, on the way to Bash at Berlin. It'll be a fun pairing once again, as Gunther has been kind of reunited with Kaiser on television. So, and also for Sheamus, it's a good victory, a good outing for Sheamus, and his program with Pete Dunne, i.e. Butch, has been, I guess, for the moment, kind of put aside. All right, well, we got a lot of stats throughout the show about Roman Reigns' return and how many social media views it got, and I guess this is now the metric for success in WWE, and I'm not laughing or berating them by any means. I mean, it's just, I guess it's such a sign of the times now. I mean, we're now in an era where we don't talk about really TV ratings anymore or buy rates for PLEs or pay-per-views as they once were called back in the day. it's now how many views did you get, which is also how a lot of people view their own posts. How many views, how many clicks, how many likes? It's how we value success has been changed dramatically, even over the last 5 to 10 years. And so WWE is just keeping up with the times. And so again, it's not a complaint or a laughing at them. Just I had a thought about that. Like they're talking about how many views they had and all that, which is, again, congrats to them. And having the Roman Reigns return have 100 million views, pretty crazy. But they've talked about that several times throughout the show and more stats as well. But all right, we got a video package with the Wyatt Sicks and a brief SummerSlam package that recap Finn turning on Damien Priest. And Damien comes out and called out Finn Balor that you knew wasn't going to come out, but that's half the fun. And he said, come out and take this beating like a man. And then Priest spoke about how he was on his own until the Judgment Day. And he said he realized that his family got bigger, and he talked about really us being his family suddenly. What? I mean, just a couple of months ago, you were lecturing us to all rise for the Judgment Day. So now you what exactly made you why are we your family suddenly? See, I like Damien Priest. I think he did an exceptional job compared to what most people expected from him as world champion. I think he is a two-time world champion over the next 12 months. I think he could easily capture the belt back, and he's shown he's worthy of it. He feels like a champion. He carries himself like a champion. He's been on the rise, no pun intended, for the last year and a half. But suddenly we are now his family. When he turned babyface and we loved him without this pandering stuff. Like, I mean, this is what I hope Roman Reigns doesn't do. I don't want him pandering and saying, oh, you guys carried me through the loss and I heard your chants while I was out. And do people actually like being pandered to? I mean, if you're WWE, are you that much in a bubble that you think that people like being kowtowed to instead of just, hey, you know what? People love this, even if we don't change a thing about their character. They love Roman Reigns without him changing a single thing. He became an instant babyface the moment that he lost the belt to Cody. Instantly. I mean, there was like a week or 2 weeks went by before they started chanting, "We want Roman." And Roman Reigns did nothing. So I hope they don't modify his character too much. I know they changed his music around a little bit. The jury's still out on that. But with Damien Priest, I saw some flashes, some signs of him just suddenly realizing how valuable the crowd is. And telling Balor to say hello to his new family. And the fans did cheer. But I don't know. I'm not a guy that likes to be pandered to and coddled and acknowledged by the stars. I don't. I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of not my thing. Not my thing. It's like they're purposefully stroking the egos of the fans, and some people love it. I hate it. I hate it. It's a change of character that's too drastic for me most of the time when they don't realize. You don't need to change almost anything that the heel character did. You really don't. And this goes industry wide. Sometimes people love an edgy badass that, yeah, they don't run down the crowd. I'm not saying to run down the crowd. Obviously, that's not going to work. So take that out. But you also shouldn't just do a 180 and start kissing their ass. You know? And this is not just things that I see in WWE. I've seen in AEW. I've seen it in other promotions. I've seen it in WWF, WWE. I don't know. Anyway, let me move on. So Priest said he's not just upset about losing the championship. He said Balor made him feel like he's disappointed his family referring to us. So suddenly he cares about our feelings. Since when? Since WWE decided you're a good guy now? The fans have been cheering you for like a month and a half, 2 months without you doing this. And suddenly we're your family? Stop. Please, the pain. It's like their incessant need to always make sure that babyface champions talk about them being fighting champions. That is something that is a holdover from Vince McMahon that just has not gone away. So, just again, personal preferences, guys. This is what I'm not a fan of that stuff. But let's continue. Priest said that when Balor is suffering, he should know that he's the reason for the pain, and Priest called out for Balor. And Finn Balor appeared on the big screen and told Priest he brought this all on himself, and that they were all supposed to have each other's backs with no leaders, and that changed once Priest became champion. And Balor said he nearly became champion a year ago, and Priest told him it was time to man up. And he said Balor said he waited a full year and screwed Priest and his whole family. Please, can we please not continue this family thing that the fans are his family? Please, 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 please. I hope it's not a thing. But Balor said Priest is street trash and he wouldn't fight him, but JD would. And Balor said he would wait until Priest feels comfortable. And he's almost forgotten about him, and that's when he'll be there to stab him in the back again and again and again. And that's when we saw the new Judgment Day, the evolved Judgment Day, which consisted of obviously Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Liv Morgan, and Dominic Mysterio. I gotta say, I like this. I really like this kind of new evolved Judgment Day look. It felt fresh and new. The Judgment Day did need to shake up. There was a lot of cracks forming. This was a nice visual. I really liked this new Judgment Day. For the first time, seeing them all together was I think a lot of fun. All right. We then had Adam Pearce backstage on the phone. Bronson Reed showed up and said he's going to take things into his own hands, which we find out later what that was. Lyra Valkyria and Shayna Baszler. And this matchup was incredibly short, as most Shayna Baszler matches are these days. And it ended with Lyra Valkyria beating Shayna by DQ in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And this finish specifically was Baszler putting Valkyria in a submission that she escaped, and Valkyria hit the Nightwing and had the pin, but Stark came in and attacked her for the DQ. So Lyra beats Shayna by disqualification in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And after the match, Damage Control came out and cleared the ring of Baszler, Stark, and DeVille. So are Damage Control now babyface? Maybe. I honestly, to be totally fair, forgot Damage Control was even there. But they continue to hang on, don't they? I mean, they just don't go away. Nothing against Io. Ultra talented in the ring. I don't think she gets the credit she deserves. Kairi Sane, she unfortunately hasn't been really showcased much. She hasn't done really a thing since she returned to WWE last year. And Dakota Kai has shown how good she is on the mic with their program with Bayley leading up to WrestleMania this past year. But I think that these three women together, I don't know. It's like the sum of the parts aren't as good as the individual parts, which is contrary to the analogy. I don't know. I've said this for about a year and a half now. I would break them up. But what do I know? I'm not the one running creative. I forgot they were even there, though. Okay. We then had Chad Gable show up and told Niall that Dupree brings nothing of value, and berated Dupree again, who was talking to who was it? Was it Ivy Nile? I think it was. So we then have Punk come out. He signed an autograph and got a big reaction, and he said that Punk let his emotions get the best of him, and he assumed people were wondering why he was smiling and happy, and Punk said he would address that in a minute. But first gave a shout out to Bilal, I can't pronounce, Muhammad, for winning the UFC welterweight championship. And Punk said he was happy because he hadn't been to Baltimore in years, and he said getting there was no guarantee. And he said some fans loved him because when he gets knocked down, he gets back up. And Punk said that the night wasn't guaranteed because of the injury he suffered at the Rumble. And he said that the injury originally was told him that he'd be out for 9 months, but he's able to come back in 5. Am I okay? Is that? I was trying to think of the math on that. So they originally told him 9, but Punk said 5. Well, am I missing the math here? He gets injured in January. He just had his in-ring debut and was cleared in August, right? Just before SummerSlam. That's not 5 months. That's 7. Now, maybe in real time, backstage, he was cleared in June, right? Maybe it was from January to June. He actually got cleared in June, perhaps. But that's not congruent with him being actually cleared on camera, on story in August, right before SummerSlam. That's 7 months. So when he said that, I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, 7 months, not 9 months, but I don't know. So one little thing there. But he said that Punk put over McIntyre's size, called him a tough SOB, and took issue with McIntyre telling lies about me to make himself feel better. And he said he's happy to be back, and SummerSlam was just the start. And he said his road to WrestleMania started at SummerSlam. He asked where he would be if he stayed down when he lost the match. And he said his summer didn't start the way he wanted, but it's still summer. And the fans in Baltimore deserve less talking and more fighting. And he called out Punk called out Drew for round 2. And so, first of all, I'm glad that Punk didn't get injured during that match. You do kind of watch a Punk match with, kind of bated breath because he is older with a lot of mileage on him and he does have a history of being injured. So I'm glad that at least from what we know, Punk was not injured in the match. So Seth comes out and he was wearing a black leather jacket and he was also in a good mood and said, after 10 long years, it's time for me to put you in the dirt. And Rollins entered the ring and Punk stood near the corner and he said that Punk said he wasn't the one dressed like a cowboy, but he'd be his Huckleberry. And that's when Drew comes out and interrupts. Seth, and I really, this is a genuine question. Okay, it's serious. This isn't me being negative about it, but it's a real question. Did Seth put on weight? Did Seth gain weight in particularly his stomach, or was that just a bad visual camera angle for Seth? I'm being serious. Because I've seen pictures of it. I remember watching it, and I'm like, what happened, bro? And again, could be a bad camera angle. Maybe he did put on a little weight. I'm just curious because I don't remember Seth having that. But that said, we got McIntyre coming out, and he said that Punk proved he still has it, but he's no longer the best in the world. And Punk and Rollins continued to stare at one another, and McIntyre said he knew how to get their attention. And he held up Punk's bracelet and mentioned his wife and dog. And then Punk left the ring, hopped the barricade, and went after McIntyre. So this is continuing. And I said this in my SummerSlam review that I thought this was going to be done, a one and done with Punk and Drew. But the fact that he took Punk's bracelet after he left told me that this is continuing. And it does seem to be continuing. And I'm fine with that. In fact, this could lead to bad blood. It could. It could all lead all the way to Bad Blood in October. The pay-per-view name would seemingly bear that out. These two have bad blood. And I love how they're bringing Bad Blood back in October to the very day that it was introduced in 1997. I guess from a selfish perspective, given that Bad Blood was the very first PLE that I really remember watching, in October of 1997 with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker in the first Hell in a Cell, I have, I guess, a nostalgic love for the Bad Blood event. And the fact of bringing it back to me is, again, just, it's just a selfish love because I know no one else probably has that. But for me anyway, But we get Bronson Reed, though, attacking Rollins from behind, hits a Death Valley driver, 2 running sentons, 2 tsunami splashes, referees run out, producers run out. Reed then hits a 3rd, and a 4th, and a 5th, and a 6th. And Rollins was coughing up blood, and Rollins was finally rolled away. And this was great. Even the crowd was chanting one more time. And I don't know if that was really the fans turning on Seth, although I think that's coming, or Seth is turning on us. I think the Seth Rollins babyface run, just as a side note, is coming to a close somewhat soon. And I mean that in the next 6 months or so, I think we're going to see a Seth Rollins turn. But I think the fans were just excited to see this destruction, see the breakout of Bronson Reed, the violence of Bronson Reed. I mean, it was fun to watch, even though most fans love Seth. This is the most relevant thing Bronson Reed's ever done in his career. And the fans knew this was a moment. So they were, they were chanting one more time because of their own selfish, and I have no problem with it. I mean, selfish in a way that's just like, hey, we're in person. It's cool to be there when moments like this happen. But I think it's kind of instinctual that, when you're there and you're acknowledging and understanding that you're in a moment, you want it to continue. So I don't think it was the fans turning on Seth when they were chanting one more time, but this is really cool. I mean, how many times you see 6 times? And it didn't feel like overkill. In a way, in one respect, it's like, oh my God, 6 times. But it wasn't in the context of a match. It was to violently brutalize Seth Rollins. Now, what's the beef with Bronson Reed and Rollins? I mean, I don't think there is any. It was just Bronson Reed taking his career into his own hands, making his own path, as he warned earlier, that we all just kind of shoved away as like, okay, man, yeah, some random platitude. Yeah. You'll make your own path and you'll stand strong, blah, all this nonsense. And nobody heeded the warning. No one took it seriously. I didn't. You can't tell me you did. So it was really cool to see that. And it continued this is really good on a lot of levels. Number 1, the visual was great. Number 2, the matchup that we're going to get is going to be a lot of fun. Number 3, Bronson Reed being elevated to this level is really fun because you're seeing the creation of new stars in real time here. And I think that's always a positive. So Bronson Reed getting this opportunity is going to be huge for his career. And it also has pushed back Punk and Rollins that they continue to tease, and we're finally going to get it, and then we don't, and then this and that, and then Punk's now distracted still with Drew probably for the next couple months through Bad Blood, and then you got Punk working with Bronson Reed maybe for the same amount of time, and then you eventually get back to it. I mean, we'll see. It just seems like they are teasing us with Punk and Rollins. And they are, because they know that match is at any time, and they could wait all the way to WrestleMania where these two continue to get distracted by other opponents. And they finally meet at WrestleMania 41. I mean, I could absolutely see that, and I have no problem with that. In fact, Punk and Rollins at WrestleMania 41 makes the most sense. You were going to do Punk and Rollins at WrestleMania 40. Why not push it to WrestleMania 41? So I think that's probably what's going to happen. Just when you think they're finally going to get back to one another, wham. You have another distraction and another detour. So I think, again, the Bronson Reed thing, there's just nothing bad about this. This is all positive for Rollins, who finally may take a little more serious approach. If he comes out, let me just tell you, even those of you that are just absolutely in love with the Seth Rollins character and all that, you're still not burned out of it. You can't tell me if he comes out next week dancing and in his ridiculous outfits and all the rest, that you're not going to say to yourself, oh, wait a minute, he just got splashed 6 times by a 320-pound man, and he's coming out here and doing his usual shtick. Come on. And I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm saying it's a possibility in WWE land. It has happened before. But it seems like he's spitting up blood. They'll probably have a quote-unquote diagnosis soon that he has internal injuries, maybe some definitely broken ribs. And I think, if I'm not already mistaken, did they already come out with a diagnosis? quote unquote. I know they were doing tests. I'm saying all these things in air quotes because obviously these things aren't happening actually. But they probably do have and will have a diagnosis. And it's going to be a fun Bash at Berlin because these two are going to face each other at Bash at Berlin. And Seth Rollins will have his ribs taped up. And they'll talk about the injuries. And that's, Bronson Reed's going to target that injury throughout the match. Seth Rollins is going to have to fight from behind. It's a fun story to be had, and it's watching the evolution of a star in real time is fun. So it was just great. It was just great, and no one ever saw this coming. And random attacks like this, I don't think happen enough. So cool. All right, we then had the New Day, Kofi and Xavier versus AOP, and Kingston and Woods wore Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle gear for a merchandise crossover deal, whatever. We then had the New Day and Xavier beat AOP in 6 minutes and 55 seconds. After the match, Jones broke up a post-match attack by AOP, and then Jones picked up both AOP members with each arm and slammed them to the mat, and then Cross returned to the ring, but Jones put him down as well, and Kingston and Woods returned to the ring to celebrate. So I mean, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff is just the worst. It's just the worst. I just got nothing to say about this. I mean, I just don't. What are you going to say? Here's what I would like. I would like, and there's been talk about it, Xavier Woods to turn heel. I think there's a good heel run in Xavier. That's been kind of the chit-chat murmur around, X, which I would like. But I would also like the Final Testament to get some actual consistent airtime and story. Not just random matches, but like some kind of development here. All right. Backstage, let's see. Jones told Kingston he was honored to help out the New Day. And let's see here. We got... let's see. Woods... Well, here's the description that I'm reading here. This was not on the Hulu version, to be fair. So Jones told Woods that Kingston said they needed to help against the Final Testament. Woods looked a little off, and then Akira Tozawa, Otis, and Maxine showed up, and Woods joined in while they did his dance. So it could be the start of a Woods turn. Okay, there you go. All right, The Miz and R-Truth versus Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory beat The Miz and R-Truth in 7.5 minutes. So Awesome Truth are probably out of their, they're probably splitting up soon. Okay. Because they kind of fell apart at the end, and Theory hit A-Town down on Truth and got the victory. I have nothing wrong with this because I think that you have a group that are a team in Miz and R-Truth that were fun. It was a fun run to Mania, fun feel-good moment for R-Truth. And they lost the belts fairly quickly on the back end, but that's to be expected, and I think it's time for them to go their separate ways again. Not to turn any of them heel, but just that the team breaks up and they both move on. Also, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. With them on Raw, I think there's a lot of consensus to believe that both Sammy and Jey Uso are on their way to SmackDown. Now, it's not going to happen immediately, because we have next week a rematch for the Intercontinental title of Sami Zayn and Bronson Reed. Or I'm sorry, Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. We have that happening. And so they're still going to stick around on Raw for a little while longer, but with the Intercontinental Championship being freed up and Jey Uso never seemingly in a storyline that's long-term, these two are primed and ready. They were even shown together backstage and doing their handshake and all the rest. They're ready to be moved to SmackDown and to help out Roman Reigns. I think that's what's happening here. Absolutely. Sami Zayn's going to be part of this. He's going to be involved in the defense of Roman Reigns, I believe, when the OG bloodline return in full force to face off against Solo's bloodline that we all know is a showdown, that we all saw as a showdown 2 months ago at the Survivor Series event. The War Games match. So definitely something that I think we could look forward to. It's just, the puzzle pieces, the chess pieces are starting to move into the right places here. All right. We then have an interview by Braun Breaker, and he said it's taken him less than 3 years since he arrived to win the IC title, and he still considers himself the hunter, even as champion. He said he feels sorry for whatever idiot thinks he can take the title away from him, and said the championship was born to be on his shoulder. And it was a nice promo. Braun Breaker was pretty solid here. Confident. Didn't feel phony. Felt like genuinely like that's who he was, and that's important when you're cutting a promo, especially if you're new. So we then have Damien Priest versus JD McDonough. And we had, McDonough hit Priest with a suicide dive. And then Priest went, which is the, before you go to commercial break, you hit a suicide dive. That's kind of that's the routine. And then Priest went for a choke slam, and McDonough flipped and landed on his feet. Priest fired up at the corner, hitting a leaping elbow on McDonough. And then Priest joined, or rather shoved him over the broadcast table. Priest tossed McDonough back inside the ring, turned him inside out with a clothesline, and then Priest knocked Carlito off the apron, set up for his finish, but Finn Balor hit him from behind for a DQ. That actually surprised me, because the way that Finn was talking, you were thinking, oh, okay, it's going to be like weeks before Finn actually shows up and attacks Priest. It was literally later that night, and so like that kind of made me feel like an idiot in a good way, because I was thinking that he was speaking like in some far off land that at some point he's going to attack Priest when he and us, the fans, have forgotten about him. But it was literally like an hour later, so it was kind of cool. And so Priest beats JD by DQ, another disqualification, in about 10 minutes. And then after the match, this is where the real fun starts. We had the Judgment Day try to take out Priest. The old Judgment Day tried to take out Priest, and he fought it off. Rhea came out as both Liv and Dom were beating down on Priest. Rhea comes out, crowd goes crazy. Dom hops the barricade to run away from Rhea Ripley. Morgan got caught, roughed up at ringside into the post, and then Ripley set up Morgan through to put her through the table, but Dom pulled Morgan away. And then Ripley went face to face with JD, and Ripley headbutted McDonough, and Priest hit South of Heaven on McDonough, and Carlito pulled McDonough to ringside, and they hugged and raised their hand. Really cool angle here. The battle lines have been drawn. Priest and Rhea, which we all kind of knew were not going to be much longer with the current version of the Judgment Day. We saw where things were lining up, the fan support, all that. It's cool that they are now both clearly in their own category as a team. And with Finn escaping from any kind of real punishment from Priest, that's always cool. I know we all want to see South of Heaven on Finn Balor. We all want to see him get his ass kicked. Finn Balor as a heel that kind of a heel is way more fun than him as a babyface, or this kind of lukewarm heel, or whatever he was in between character that he's been for a long time now in the Judgment Day. Everything's been reset and refreshed in the Judgment Day. There's no more like ambiguity of there's baby faces and heels together. It's kind of weird. No, the baby faces have been parsed off. The heels have been parsed off with each other. The battle lines are drawn. It's very clear now. I really like that. It's, who's the good guys and you know who the bad guys are. It really is that simple. It's that elementary. It sounds insulting, but that's what we want. I think most people do anyway. And again, having Finn Balor escape is key here. I'm a big fan of delayed gratification, especially in wrestling storylines. And I think that it's going to take a while before Priest finally gets his hands on Finn Balor. But we all know that that match is likely happening at Bash of Berlin as well. So you can kind of look ahead and see who or what the matchups are in the next few weeks as we head into Bash of Berlin, which is obviously the next big event. Again, really fun angle here. And yes, Rhea Ripley will eventually get her hands on Dominic as well. So Okay. We got Sonya Deville versus Io Sky. And that match ended with Io Sky beating Sonya Deville in 9 minutes. Nice to see a women's singles match that is not about a championship. I like that. And Io Sky continues to show how good she is. Not a whole lot of build, but a storyline that actually evolved in the show where a tag team match ended with a singles match in the same night for the women. So that's good. All right. We had, again, an update on Seth, who was doing testing and all that I talked about with internal bleeding. Cole then said that the latest Wyatt Sicks video focused on a man who thinks he's Huskus the Pig, which is really Joe Gacy, but they don't hide that it's actually Joe Gacy. They call him by name. And it was another VHS tape, which is cool. And he said that Uncle Howdy, or rather Joe Gacy, had his back to the camera while Uncle Howdy said they kept him locked away. Howdy said they would make them pay for all of their sins. And Gacy yelled once his face was shown. So kind of, didn't do a lot to really tell you who and what Joe Gacy is, other than just another member of the Wyatt family that's paying tribute to Bray Wyatt. But still, I mean, I like how they actually created a video for every member to give you a little bit of a preview of who and what they are. I would like them to do a little bit for the female part of this here, the female part of the Wyatt Sicks. Maybe they'll do that next week. I don't think they have already, right? I'm pretty sure that they haven't with Nikki Cross. I mean, they still haven't really, I don't think, have mentioned her by name yet. Which, again, as I mentioned, she's very much a Ring character. The movie The Ring. They clearly went very, verbatim, the Ring character. But, all right. That was the main event, though, with Eric Rowan, Joe Gacy, and Dexter Lumis versus Chad Gable, Julius Creed, and Brutus Creed. And they did make a cool statistic, gave you one, that 11 years ago to the day in Baltimore, Maryland, the Wyatt family debuted and showed some old video of their debut and some of the old footage, and it was really cool. I mean, it did bring back a lot of emotions, as we all have as wrestling fans, with Bray Wyatt's passing, and that it's been 11 damn years since 2013. My God, since the Wyatt family debuted, and having Eric Rowan still there as kind of the final tie back to the original group is cool. And Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis, obviously big opportunities here for them. Chad Gable, Julius Creed, and Brutus Creed, a group that we were waiting for them to get together. They finally did. I think did an excellent job here selling the Wyatt Sicks. And they felt like both teams, even though they're both fairly newly formed, both felt like they had chemistry, that they have been a team for a while. This is awesome chant broke out, and we had a lot of cool spots with the double neck breaker on Brutus, with Gacy and Lumis, and Rowan paying tribute to Luke Harper, Brody Lee, by standing on the apron and yelling, "Yeah, yeah, yeah!" And then we had Rowan. Rowan had Gable beat, but the Creeds broke it up, and we had the crowd really into this "You Suck" chants, geared towards and directed towards Gable's group, which, by the way, American Made. I love that name. Really, I mean, it's a very Gable-esque name. I like it. The American Made, love it. I know it's not. Wasn't there American Alpha? Wasn't that a thing though? I think that was, but nonetheless. We had Gable looking fearful at times when he looked at Lumis and Gacy. They were selling it, but not overselling it. Again, no hocus pocus here, no teleportation or smoke or any of that. And it ended with the Wyatt Sicks getting the victory in 11 minutes, as they should. And it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun, I think, and a very nice tribute back to Bray Wyatt. The show ended with Uncle Howdy, i.e. Bo Dallas, with his Wyatt Sicks in the ring, and a nice visual. It was just cool. And a nice way to end the show. One that just makes you kind of still in disbelief that Bray Wyatt is dead. I mean, to be quite frank, I know we use the language passing away. I mean, instead of that person's dead, maybe because dead sounds so final. You know, the language has evolved very to kind of soften things that are not really changing the circumstances or reality, but more to just kind of, you know, help us cope that people pass away. They don't die anymore, you know? So I'll just say, yeah, I mean, with Bray Wyatt's death, it still is shocking at times, you know, and it still saddens you at times. Obviously, as fans, we have a much more distant relationship with Bray, but you know, it's not as intense as those who are actually family and friends of his. But as wrestling fans, I think we have a connection with the characters that a lot of other NFL and MLB and other professional sports fans that have connections with fans don't have. It's different with pro wrestling. It seems deeper. And so it's just sad that, you know, it's a constant reminder. But cool that they're paying tribute to Bray Wyatt and continuing his legacy, and having Cole even saying, you know, Bray Wyatt's smiling down or whatever. Yeah, it is. It's cool. So overall, really good show. Really good show from Monday Night Raw here. Set up Bash at Berlin, and not fully, obviously, but move some storylines forward. Crowd was really into it in Baltimore, so credit to them. And we are just getting started here as we now kick off, dare I say, kind of a pre-WrestleMania season. As we head towards the end of summer, we can look towards Survivor Series now. We know what probably the main event for that is with War Games, with Bloodline versus Bloodline. And also head towards Royal Rumble and, you know, think about who could win that. And we're already kind of playing the game of, well, are they going to push Seth and Punk out? And when's The Rock coming back? Is he going to face Roman? I mean, like, we're already playing these games. So SummerSlam is kind of the preseason, if you will, for me anyway, for SummerSlam or for WrestleMania. Even though WrestleMania this year is ultra late, it's in like late April. So we got quite a lot of time. But in my mind, I'm already thinking about how they're strategizing for WrestleMania. And so anyway, all right, well, I'll end it there before I go into a ramble. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast is the way to go. You can also find us on Spotify ad-free, or on Apple Podcasts. 7 days for free on Apple Podcasts. If you take the yearly option, you get 2 months for free. So not a bad deal there. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.